to light everything. And as it was, Burbank Water and Power called up the studio twice to try and shut us down because we were using so much power.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, there was a near brownout in Burbank. I think one night when you had every light on in the place. I don't think we knew. As actors, we didn't know the process.
You and I and David probably not as much, but you and I had to run to these invisible spots in the black. There was no X that marks the spot. They would make an X, then they would pick it up and say, "Don't even look." So Bruce and I had to back out at
we
running
counted our
speed,
steps.
at running loping steps, run and hit that exact mark, and say a line that made absolutely no sense at all.
And do you remember Steven Lisberger yelling, "Faster, faster"? I do remember that.
To you.
He reminded me, Logan reminded me of that the other night, that he kept going faster, faster. But I wasn't aware of the technology, were you? I wasn't. I mean, we take these roles, you're an actor, you're taking the role. What is the role? I did see you guys did sort of some early, like, footage. I don't know who the people were.
Right?
Some tests.
Test footage,
That's something I saw, and it looked pretty amazing. And of course, you'd want to do it, be a part of it. But,
well, it was Disney.
yeah.
Who's going to say no?
That's
I mean, I read the script, made absolutely no sense to me at all. Neither did Caddyshack, but at that point, you just take the script and go, and you just, I remember showing up and going, okay, what are we going to do today? Yeah, you're in the Solar Sailor, you're flying the Game Sea, go. And I went,
And you're wearing what? I have no pants on.
The only time it really made sense, the only time it rang true, was in one scene. No offense to anybody else. When I had to come in and do a scene with Mr. David Warner down at the end. And he told me I was going to die, and there was no acting required. When you told me I was going to die, I bought it.
No acting required. No, seriously, on that particular movie, we had to do what we were told, in my case, without knowing what I was doing, what I was talking about. I really didn't understand it. And I certainly wasn't the first actor a lot of actors turned down the part of Sark, so it came to me. And
we're glad it did,
and you
by
did
the
the
way.
job.
We're very happy.
I said we're glad it did.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
No, but really, without you, it just wouldn't have existed. Now, may I ask him a question?
Absolutely.
It was shot on celluloid, was it not?
It was on film.
On film, way, as we all know, before, video and everything.
65 millimeter, and every frame of film that we shot, they blew up onto a Kodalith negative.
350.
And they had to color it in, is that correct?
Yes, on an animation stand, they were like animation cells, and we put backlight through them, and colored filters and diffusion filters.
Sorry to interrupt you, am I right in thinking that some of the film went abroad to different parts of the world?
Some of those cells did.
That's what I meant, some of the cells.
Yep.
It was all over the world, they had artists painting each frame, is that correct?
That's correct, and they normally had like a dope sheet to tell these artists what to do.
Yeah, okay.
But they couldn't do it in all those languages because nobody knew the languages, so they had to write these kind of like.
So it was an extraordinary feat of getting together this film, and the only reason then I'll stop and carry on, let everybody else carry on, only because I remember at the premiere, the morning of the big New York first performance, the actual film hadn't been totally assembled that morning, I was told.
I can believe it.
Yeah, but by the time they showed it, they'd actually managed to, how they do it, I don't know, put it all together.
They hot splice it.
Well, whatever, thank you for the technical terms, I have no idea. Anyway, over to you, sir.
I wanted to expound a little more. Cindy Morgan, of course, you played Yori, which everybody, fantastic job on that role.
I wouldn't know.
That's what I wanted to expound on that. So you were going a little bit into what, you were in a black room. What was the Tron uniform before the effects were actually put on? So what exactly were you wearing when you had to perform in front of this blackness.
I was wearing a material as thin as this. This wasn't spandex. Nothing was holding anything in. I weighed 115 pounds and didn't eat lunch. But still had to do stunts.
Right.
Still had to run and do my job and say lines that... And the one day I came in and they said, you know, I was just going, whatever. I did a film called Caddyshack, and believe me, it was just as nuts. You just shut up, like, whatever. And so I came in one day and Steven Lisberger says, okay, today, because I stopped reading the script a long time ago. They said, you're getting on a solar sailor, you're crossing the Game Sea, go. And Morgan, you're flying the ship. No ship, no Game Sea, no solar sailor. What the hell are you talking about?
What the hell is a solar sailor?
So they showed me pictures of Sid Mead's beautiful graphics of what it would look like. I said, okay, I get it. And there was a riser, just like a little thing on a stage. And on that riser was a banquet table covered in black felt. And they said, okay, here's your board, fly the ship. I said, okay. Nothing here. What, you know, how am I flying?
Right.
Nothing. And they said, just do anything. And I'm, oh, if you lie to the audience, you're going to know. Mm-hmm. So, okay, close your ears, because I know you don't like hearing this. We have a deal. If he doesn't talk about horses, I won't talk about broadcasting. Ah. But in my mind, we've done a few panels before. Yeah. I was a sound engineer.
Okay.
My own sound engineer for years, and I saw my soundboard.
Oh, okay.
I saw potentiometers, I saw slides, I saw things that actually had places and pieces and moved, and whatever this was made this go that way. So I had to see something.
Right.
Otherwise, it would read, you know, blank. Mm-hmm. That's what I saw.
So there we go.
Oh, but the best time, I had the best fun on set. I knew this was going to happen, again, from broadcasting. We were looking, and Steven goes, why are you and Jeff and Bruce looking in 3 different directions? Because, Stevens, nothing's there. And so I said, okay, simple. What we would do in broadcasting. You get a knot? I said, see that roll of tape on that grips? Just put it on a rope. Drag it. Look at it.
Oh, and then...
It worked.
Yeah.
How high tech, you know?
It worked.
Eyeline is everything.
Yeah.
Keep going with that, I'm going to ask Bruce Boxleitner, of course, Tron himself. So the light cycles, was it just you guys squatting and talking?
It looked like that, didn't it? Actually, there was a stick with a little crossbar on the floor, and Jeff and I and all these other gentlemen stood in a line. Jeff and I had some dialogue. He turns, something about, it's about my user or something like that. We turn, and suddenly we crouch down on this little stick, and the rest was magic. And we just pretended we went like this, you know. And that was it. We did, by the way, Bruce, am I wrong? And I think, Cindy, we had somewhat storyboards. They weren't very elaborate, but they were enough so that we had a picture that at least we could imagine, okay, this is what it's generally going to look like. I had no idea that it was going to turn out the way it finally did. But
no, I was blown away and a little scared.
Yeah. But that was the extent, that was the high-tech quality of my light cycle. And they did light stick, yes. Light stick. And you know, they did such amazing stuff with that. So, but it was very, very low tech. And every day we did, like she says, we showed up. And I feel like Steven did let us do some kind of. He helped us, or we had to help him find what was in the scene.
We did work it out together.
Yeah, there was improvisation until we could. And
then ordering 10 more lights.
Yes.
You know, like, just another 5 each side.
We were lit up. I mean, Cindy and I ran, and we did days of running
and
through a black
abyss.
Abyss, yes. Everyone hears of green screen and blue screen and things like that. No. It was black. Yeah. Black kind of velveteen. What was it, Bruce? It was kind of a... Because it absorbed light,
yeah, it was like a flock. Well, you know, the big drapes were of theatrical velvet.
Yes, they were.
But all the set models were covered in paper, which was like a flocked paper.
Remember, I said it was a banquet table covered in felt.
Right.
And that's what.
Yeah.
And remember, we had
it absorbed light.
Yes.
Like sound.
Very, very black.
We had to climb, though, you and I, and it was a little precarious. There was a sort of, it was supposed to be this gigantic cable-like thing.
And you two had to do your own stunts, huh?
And we had to do that, yeah. And we actually went up rather high. When the Solar Sailor gets cut in half, separated from Yori, Tron is hanging on.
Right.
I was actually probably like 2 stories up, it felt like. I don't know, Bruce, maybe it was shorter, but being up there looking down, it looked pretty far.
It was black, so you couldn't really see how
Yes,
far
that's
down
true.
it was.
That's true. So, you know, but that was it. Otherwise, for me, I had to learn. I was always having to work out with this guy, Sam Schott, and practice with my Frisbee. And this guy was not a guy, this wasn't a day at the beach with this guy. He threw this thing like it was a bullet. And I had to catch these things. And Lisberger was a bit sadistic in that way. He wanted me to really have to work out there. And I did, you know. And I've never thrown one since.
I'd like to now throw it out to the audience, give their ability to weigh their 2 cents in, ask you guys some questions. So if you guys have some questions, go ahead and start lining up by that microphone there. We'll take turns alternating here. If you have a question for a specific person, just make sure you let them know you're talking to them. But if not, the whole cast will generally answer.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Hello, I have a question for Mr. David Warner. You played a lot of marvelous villainous characters over your career, like Sark, of course, and Jack the Ripper, and Evil from Time Bandits. So I was wondering, do you prefer to
Enjoy it, but it's not what I would have preferred to do. So no, I can't say. I don't, over the last 10 years or so, when I offered heavies and villains, I tend not to do them, because it was just, people just would come up to me sometimes and say, are you ever going to play a good guy? And I said, well, actually, I have lots of good guys, but you've never seen them. You know, I've done quite a few movies, but they're not the ones that people have seen. So, yeah, I mean, I'm an actor. I'm so glad to have had the jobs. They happen to have been villains, but then now I just can't do that anymore, because I don't know. It's just doesn't. I started to feel uncomfortable. It's not like, say, Christopher Lee in the horror films or something about that is sort of not real. Somehow I'm so real, you see. People really think I am like that. And no, I mean, I didn't choose it. You know, the job comes, you say yes or no, and I said yes. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Suzanne. I read on the internet that there was a deleted love scene between Yori and Tron, and I was wondering if you could tell me more about that.
We went back to Yori's apartment, or was it my apartment it was supposed to be?
It was, I remember that day.
It's supposed to be Tron's apartment? It was Yori's apartment, yes. And we actually, there are some photos out there in the...
The whole scene's out there.
Yeah.
Just put deleted Tron love scene.
Deleted Tron love scene, right. But remember the hairstyles, because they wanted to suggest that we had made love and that we should have our helmets off, you know, combing our hair, post-coitus combing hair, you know, it was...
The universal symbol of the grid that you've made love.
Yes,
Your
that's
helmet
right.
is off.
So they were trying, I remember we
Little
experimented
kids,
with...
little kids.
They're little kids?
Yes.
Well, they won't be after a while. So anyway, anyway,
I think we got
had
it with helmets off.
We had all these tests on what our hairstyle would look like. I had this big coxcomb type thing. I looked like some
I'm not even going to
punk
start.
rocker. Remember the things we did?
Sweetie,
They're out
some
there.
woman took a crimping iron, an ancient crimping iron to my hair, and got it
And
out to
ruined it,
here.
right?
And I took a shower the next day, and I smelled burned chicken feathers. It came out in handfuls.
You ladies would know
and,
that.
And she kept saying, but I have an Academy Award. And I said, I have no hair. It's going to take 6 months to grow back. And I don't care what you got. You're going to stop doing this to my hair. Yeah, they did
I
a
know,
lot of stuff.
but then I think they got rid of that idea. But then those photos are out there, you know.
right.
They didn't do it, and we kept our helmets on.
And those costumes, you were still in your costume. They developed a new one for me, which is gorgeous in the special effect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But I was sewn into that thing. We were talking
remember.
back in the green room.
and you had sort of a long.
Well,
have like
yeah,
a
they call it
diaphanous-
online the sparkly cape.
Sparkly cape,
Yeah,
that's it.
but the actual costume was just this bodysuit that was like, again, thin material, beaded, and I was sewn into it. They gave me a torture device called a leaning board, and again, it hurt. I'd rather stand on my feet for 12 hours.
We did a lot of that too, by the way. Yeah, I don't know why it.
I heard it was a last-minute decision. I heard that Stephen went into a cut and said, "Don't want it."
It kind of did impede the
I don't know. I think people love it. I don't know. I thought it was.
I don't even remember it anymore, and that's what's so bizarre.
Okay, well, let me help you,
Did
Grandpa.
did
Let
we
me
make
see.
love here? I mean, what happened? And then what happened?
You said, "Isn't this illegal?" And I said, "Yes, very."
Oh yes, no, I do.
And we walked in, and it turned into something like one of the old-fashioned, like one of the original sci-fi films, like the best film on earth if you can see it in HD, 10 seconds, and they cut it right there, because they just felt it was a bit much for Disney's first adult film.
That's true. That's true. And that's what happened to it. It got cut. You know.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron, and I was curious as to what the future for Tron holds for us. I know there was Tron Uprising in place of a Tron 3 movie. Is there a continuation to Tron Uprising? Is there anything in the works?
Shanghai.
Shanghai?
You have to go to Shanghai, China, and ride the light cycle
For
ride.
the second season?
That's it. I know of nothing myself. I really don't know of anything. I think they shelved it and did Star Wars, and they're doing their animated classics as live-action movies now. So,
Hello,
who
my
knows?
name is Patrick.
Patrick.
I talked to you guys earlier. Tron saved my life, and I just wanted to know, going around the country and seeing people and hearing their stories, does it still kind of shock you, like now, to know how much this world means to a lot of people and how it affects people on their day-to-day lives? Oh, yeah.
I'd say it's more heartwarming than shocking. I say you go home and go, you know, a lot of people liked it, a lot of people didn't, but we must have done something right.
Oh, I think so, yeah. I think there's a wonderful, sweet story there, you know. And it's actually what we're living. It's the times we're living in, the age of information.
Yeah.
And its own little sweet, naive story kind of predicted this, you know.
Yeah.
When you and I and Barney Hughes stood there at the very end, and he said, "Look, programs."
Do you know what
And
we were
saw it
looking
all.
at? Do you remember what we were looking at?
The back end of the stage.
The
wasn't
proscenium.
The
We were
proscenium
like
arch.
3 feet from a corner. Thank you, Bruce.
it? Yes, yes.
And we're looking out into the distance, like we were looking this far, and we are standing in
Yeah,
a corner.
yeah.
And thank you for getting us like a foot away from the corner, so we could at least breathe.
You're welcome.
Hey, he got a meter in there, though. He had room enough to.
But David had to do harder things, I think, than we did.
David had a lot of hard
Because
things to do.
David was standing at, again, something that didn't exist, and leaning into it and creating power surges. And do you remember?
You remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, no, seriously, I really, really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I really just didn't know what I was doing. But I do remember it was more like, get them,
Yes.
kill them. That was all that I, you know, I mean, great character work, you know. All that training, all that drama school training and being with the Royal Shakespeare Company. And it's, kill them, get them. No, actually, no, seriously though. I can't, these guys, sorry?
Derez.
Derez. Derez? What does that mean? So, what I mean is, these guys are great talking about it. I mean, I admire you because you sort of at least pretend you understand
Well,
what's
now we
going
do.
on.
We didn't at the time.
No, I know.
But David, you did some awesome close-up work too.
Yes, you did.
Because when you came up to me and said you're going to die and you were about this far away, I firmly believed you. I mean, that's what I meant. I'm not.
That was just a rehearsal, though, wasn't it? No, thank you for that, darling. I must say, I've only actually seen the film once, and that was you know, when it came out. So I'm not really just as familiar with the whole thing as you guys are, and I can't talk about much except for kill them and get them.
Do you remember when I deeply parted your hair at the end with a with a light disc, huh?
No.
And your brains came spewing out all over your circuitry came spewing
I thought
out.
that was Time Bandits.
No.
I do get confused with all these films. I do.
All those evil characters.
No, it was.
So the one thing
we had
about
a big duel in the end.
I know.
Remember?
What I was just going to say, you talk about a frisbee.
Yes.
Way back then, being English, I didn't know what a frisbee was. We don't have, you know, we didn't have frisbees then. So I had to be educated in the art of frisbee. Yes, we did. But then a lot of the times, it didn't actually have. You had to pretend you had a frisbee, and they did your technical stuff too. See, it's more,
my friend,
not quite Shakespearean,
okay.
darling.
All right, not quite. Like I said, it was not quite Shakespearean, but close enough for Disney.
Close enough for Disney, darling. Yes.
Well, God bless you guys, and thank you for doing what you do.
And thank you, young man. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Alec. I'm a huge Tron fan. It touched my life as well. My question's for Mr. Dave from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, as a professor. How was your experience working with Jim Henson doing that movie?
What's the question? Sorry, I'm a bit deaf.
Your experience working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Can we talk about other movies, or should we just talk about Tron?
I think we can answer the audience.
It's okay?
questions. Yeah.
Okay, you don't. Secret of the Ooze. What was it like working? Actually, that when people ask me what my favorite movie is, it is that one. You know, and now the reason is because, to answer in a way for an earlier question, it wasn't the villain.
No, you weren't.
It was a really good guy, and I really had to do, and I had a young kid at the time, so I was asked to do it. I don't know who turned it down, but it came to me, and it was great. But the one thing, way back for that movie, and obviously some of you have seen it, my admiration for those guys inside those suits who had to, we were shooting in Wilmington, North or South Carolina. Thank you. Forgive me, my geography is not okay. Wilmington, anyway. It was really hot, and you know, being in those suits, that every 5 minutes they had to take those heads off and give them water and put, you know, cold air and ice and everything. And my admiration, and I learnt a lot. These guys really went through a lot, but of course the audience didn't and shouldn't know that. And so, but still, I really loved playing the professor in that movie, especially after having played so many heavies. So thanks for that question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian, and I think my question pertains to both you, Bruce, and David as to...
There's no kind of difference, it's just an extension. So I can't really...
I know I was with Donald Duck through most of it. Donald Duck, which was a treat. I've always wanted to work with Donald Duck. He's a childhood hero of mine. But the one thing I can say about that is that for the first time in my whole career, my youngest son, Michael, had finally thought I was cool.
Aww.
He was probably about 10 or 11 years old, whatever he was at that time, and he got that and he played it and says, "Look, Dad, that's you. That's you." I said, "Yeah, wow. It is me. I'm on a video game."
Yeah.
Now, they pay huge money to be in video games and voiceover work, don't they?
Yeah.
They do. They have gained a lot of respect. So, but yeah, that's the first time I was ever cool. 40-some years, you know.
Nothing to do really with this, but as you were talking about your kid and if they respect you or whatever, well, when we were making Tron, my wife was pregnant. And part of the contract, before we even started making the movie, was merchandising little figures and various things, like video games and everything, you know. And I said, "What do you mean merchandising?" Because being English, we don't know anything about, or didn't know anything about that kind of thing. I said, "Well, they're going to make little plastic figures of you." And, you know, I did look ridiculous in my costume, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if you really, you think about it. Anyway, but that's not the point. The point is, I said, "No, I will not sign a merchandising contract." They said, "Why?" I said, "Well, my wife is pregnant. And I don't want my kid to be brought up with a plastic daddy for a baddie. And my agent said, "You must be mad." I said, "No." Anyway, I said to the wife, I said, "What do you think?" She said, "Sign it." So of course yes. Final arbiter.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. For Wreck-It Ralph 2. So there we go, But I just had a question for all four of you. And I apologize in advance if you don't remember teamwork or just a scene that you're particularly proud of the movie, if you have one by chance. Thank you.
I'll go. Yeah. So I guess the most interesting work for me, most of it was shot just on complete black limbo, and there was nothing there. But there were two sequences. One was the inside of the recognizer and some of the tank sequences. And they were actually shot with the kind of white taped lines on the set. And we were able to do camera moves. Otherwise, we had to be completely locked off for the whole movie. So some of those are my favorite to watch.
Thank you.
I like the scene with Barnard Hughes where I beg him. I crawl up. Now, speaking of sweating in his suit, Barnard was dying of perspiration. I was sitting right next to him, and Steven Lisberger spent about 15 minutes arranging my legs on those stairs, which was making everybody a little crazy. You remember that day. And Barnard's being really patient and very professional. Afterwards, I look at the scene, and it just, the whole movie, well, when I had to do the press junket, and I was telling people, we're going to do this and that, and they were like, what the heck are you talking about? I kept saying, Wizard of Oz, Wizard of Oz. You go into one world, you come out, there's all the same people you know, but it's in bright, vivid color. And I look at that scene, and it just looked like Dorothy coming up to the wizard and asking permission to go through. And when I look at the actual still, which of course I've got on my website and in color, it's a beautiful shot. And as much as we all hated it, and Barnard, that was a rough day for him. It's when you look at beautiful things and you're a part of it, you go, how the hell did I do that? And you go, well, this guy, who I'm still mad at, and this guy who I don't even talk to, and that guy over there was, the first time I ever saw you, I was kidding you in the green room. I was on a plane going to do my first film, Caddyshack, and the movie they showed was Time Bandits. That's the first time I saw you.
Time Bandits.
And I loved it, fell in love.
It was the same performance, Same performance.
That was lit. I was blinded. That's why I looked at, for one part of it, it looked like I was smiling. My teeth were like,
The lights were a little bright once in a while.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And the old-fashioned way, it went, and then they took it, and the animated one, it went all the way up. But that shot is so beautiful, and it became the iconic pose and moved me. I had a wonderful speech there, this disc is the future, and blah, blah, blah. It was my Braveheart moment in that, and that was it. So, but that's what, like you're saying, that whole sequence was very spiritual feeling. So.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi there, guys. Bruce, I'm pretty sure you remember me.
Yes, I do.
But this question is for all.
Shirts 3 times today, didn't you? Okay.
Actually, yeah, I did. But this question is for all 4 of you. Since Tron first came out, there's been a lot of followers, loyal followers, not just from back then, but as time went on. My father watched it, he liked it. He actually introduced me to the first movie. And I loved it ever since then. I told you that I studied computer science just because this film inspired me. And what I don't get is, and I think Disney would even agree, that they acknowledge that there's a lot of people that love this franchise and want it to keep going. Even this year alone, they made a new Tron game. They made a new Tron ride in Shanghai. But for some reason, they don't want to continue on with Tron Uprising or Tron 3, and which is a shame for all of us because we want to see how it actually ends. There's a lot of holes in there, but my real question is, why do you think it's difficult for this franchise to keep alive?
I don't know. I'm pointing at you.
Not at me.
Well, here's the thing. When someone makes a decision, it's based on so many factors. And Disney isn't one guy. Yeah. According to the legend, he's buried under the animation studio in cryogenics. But
I thought he was in the water tower.
Everybody says that. But there's so many departments making so many decisions, and the bottom line is, it really doesn't get down to us. But if they were sitting where we are,
right?
If they were sitting on the front lines and talking to people and saw the love in the eyes of the people who are just this movie means so much, I think they might change their minds and start perhaps make a different product, maybe a product that has a known. I only took one merchandising class. It start at your core demographic, find out what people love, and build out from there. So whoever makes the decision, I'm not going to argue it, but once they make a decision, they've got to stand behind it. Yeah. So get online. You know what's powerful? I know, because I talked to the producers of Legacy. They're all about 25, and they're all named Sean or something. But the thing is, what they told me is remember the word grid bugs?
Oh, yeah.
They send out, do you know about this? They send out, this was 5 years ago. They send out web crawlers every day, every night. And every morning, they get a report on their desk. They read what people say. They put it into categories. So the decisions are being made by the internet now. I don't know if you guys are aware of how much power, but be respectful. You know, the crazy screamers, they go into a different category. but people who actually make sense and say it well and say it on a blog, they listen and they get a report on their desk. So I suggest say something.
I want to tell you, they went after, I don't know how many versions of, they were already crewing up in Vancouver, where we shot Legacy, because I was doing a show for Hallmark up there, and the printouts would come as to crew people that are needed. And there's so many films and television series shooting up there now, they're hard pressed for it. But, so that was out there. It was on this list of, more or less had plans, who was contracted to do the second one after Legacy. He went right into a pre-production. He had like 2 films going, but there was always a pre-production going on. They were preparing for the next one. That was always the intent. Something happened. I have no idea what. It's way above our pay grade here to know those decisions.
Did you read the online, it was Tomorrowland?
Yeah.
How do you blame George Clooney's clunker of a show?
I'm not, but that's when they pulled it.
George Clooney, who couldn't sell a movie to save his life.
Well, Disney's response to that was...
And you can quote Tron, okay?
And that's for the next panel, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
how does Tomorrowland's failure result in that? Somewhere along
you did know.
Well, how is it? How was
it? Just was in the paper.
Well, they said that Tomorrowland, they related Tomorrowland with your film because it was science fiction and futuristic. And they said, well, because that was going to be, since that one didn't do well, we don't think Tron's going to do well because it's the same kind of thing, which I didn't think.
But that's nonsense
totally
because Legacies did damn well. No, it wasn't the biggest blockbuster, but it still was $440 million, and that's not chump change. You know? So I don't know. All I know is they decided to redirect their efforts into their live-action animated, the old animated classics like Cinderella and Maleficent did huge. They're going where the huge is. Okay? It's all about money. It's about, you know.
It is a business after all, isn't it?
Show business, not show art. You know?
Unfortunately, guys, that is our last question. We are out of time, but I do want to thank everybody for coming out. That was Please, round of applause, David Warner, Bruce Boxleitner, Cindy Morgan, and Bruce Logan.